Well, hello again to our listeners and viewers, and we're back again. I'm Rob Allen, owner of RangeMaster Shoulder Therapy, and today is our guest. We have Teresa Moerer, and Teresa is a physical therapist. She has a particular interest in aging parents, and she's published her own book on the topic. And we're going to talk a little bit about aging parents today. But Teresa, forgive me, would you mind doing a little more on your introduction? Tell us how long you've been a physical therapist, where you went to school, where you're living now, and we're going to talk about self-publishing too. That's an interesting topic, I think. So go ahead.
Okay, sure. And thank you for having me today. It's a pleasure to be here. And yes, my name is Teresa Moerer, and right now I live in Waverly, Iowa. And I've been here for about 23 years. I do have we have three grown children, so we know we won't be here forever, because they're all over the country. So we'll probably hit one coast or another eventually. But yes, I went to Rockhurst University, graduated 36 years ago, and I've been a clinician for 36 years until just recently I decided that I would become an entrepreneur. Yeah, I had, during my therapy years, I ran into multidisciplinary group therapy and absolutely fell in love with it. I saw all the, all these wonderful results with the patients, and I was in skilled nursing, and it was a perfect place to bring the patients together, build a team, do the group therapy, and just see the results of this wonderful work. So I put a framework around the group therapy. And about 15 years later, because group therapy went in and out of, vogue, it was in and out, and they were paying for it and they weren't paying for it. So finally, I decided to write a book, but I decided to dedicate it to caregivers and the aging. And I put my group therapy within this book. And I also added healthy lifestyle strategies and also a couple educational theories that are just real vital for communication. You get to know yourself, you get to know your parents, and as a therapist, you get to know your patients. And that's vital for us to make the most impact with our patients, is to really get to know them on a personal level, because we have to know their strengths and their weaknesses, or we cannot really fully help them. And that's my opinion,
Well, let's stop right there because let's go over what's the title of your book. And I see it's available on Amazon. And do you have a website? So let's kind of take those three things.
Okay. Yes, the name of my book is The Art of Assisting Aging Parents. And you can find it on Amazon or barnesandnoble.com. And yeah, I forgot what else you wanted to know about that. But yeah, it's for caregivers and the aging. Because honestly, as caregivers, and a lot of us can be in that sandwich generation where we're raising children and caring for our aging parents. But we also have to remember, if we don't help ourselves and work on our brains and our bodies, that we will not have the brain we need, when we get to be 70, 80, or 90 years old. So I dedicate a lot of education to that piece.
Wonderful. Well, the other question I asked was, do you have a website?
Oh, yes, I do. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, it's www.teresamoerer.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
So people can find you there. And
Yeah.
is the book for sale there as well, or do you link through to these other sites?
Yeah, I link through to the other sites. Yes.
And so when did you write and publish your book? I think a lot of us maybe have a book in our minds, but actually sitting down and grinding it out, that can't have been an easy task.
Mhm. No, it really wasn't. It was, and I'm not a real good writer. I have a lot of good ideas, but putting them on paper, yeah, that was a struggle. And but I finally got through it, and I did choose a publishing company. And basically, and it wasn't really too expensive, but you had to do a lot of the work yourself. They just took you through every step of it.
Okay.
So
And
that's how. Mhm.
is it a hardcover book or is it a digital book?
No, it is hardcover, soft cover, and it is on Kindle also.
Okay. And what year did you publish it?
2019.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how's it going? Is this the entrepreneurial initiative, or are there other things coupled with that as an entrepreneur that you're doing?
Mhm. Well, I really, with the book, I kind of set that up so I could do some speaking and coaching and consulting. So I want to teach people this method, and I'm starting to get my courses out there that revolve around the book, and also courses for physical therapists, occupational and speech therapists, so that they can create a exceptional group therapy treatment for their patients.
So the book kind of introduces you and then hopefully leads to some inquiries. And you talked about publishing courses. Are these courses that will count for CEU credits for therapists?
Yes, they are. They are approved. Actually, most of them are approved by most states in the country. Yes. So I have a 3-hour course that I have on one platform, and I do my own 6-hour course because I want to unpack all this research to the
Yeah.
highest level because we like research as
Yeah.
therapists. So,
Scientific brains, we find them all over in the therapy business, don't we?
yes.
No, so my predecessor and the founder of our company was one of the early inventors of overdoor shoulder pulleys. But I imagine in your years of service, you've come across quite a few ideas, both physical as well as protocol type ideas. Have you other inventions besides your coaching in your book? Have you commercialized anything else, or at least made? I don't mean at least, but oftentimes I'll see both PTs and OTs have a little adaptation that they've made and use in their work. You got any of those little secrets?
Actually, no, not at this time. I would just say that because I feel like my format is fairly unique. I did trademark it.
Uh-huh.
I call it Experiage because experiences are just crucial for learning and growing at every age. And now with neuroplasticity, we're finding out the brain is active, forever.
Great.
So I do have that. I've trademarked that, but I don't have any, like specific like pieces of equipment or anything.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, yeah. I
Well, we find ourselves in our area mostly dealing with patients who are 50, 55 plus, all the way up to 85 plus. We're helping about 200,000 or more patients a year with a little home therapeutic device.
mm,
And and they split fairly evenly among those people who are recovering from a surgical intervention, or the other half are people who are trying to stay out of surgery, and so they're doing things.
mm,
But one of the traits, and it came up again this week in our team meetings, was how frequently we hear about falls and how they begin this process of diagnosing and treating. First, oftentimes it's a tear in the rotator cuff, or at least an inflammation that's happened there, or worst case, a fracture. Um, is it, are we experiencing something that you're got a high antenna up for? You're watching for?
mhm. Yes, definitely. Yes. And I address some of the fall risk in the group therapy. We do a lot of dual tasking, and that's, doing two activities at once. And it
Mhm.
really pulls on the brain because the brain, it takes the same area of the brain to do both tasks. So that is definitely a concern of ours. And also, just to let you know, I love working with shoulders.
Oh, you do.
Yeah, that's been, I've done a lot of like rotator cuff repair and fractures, but yeah, love to work with shoulders. And I see the value of your product, for the range.
Well, thank
And yes, but yeah, it is a problem. It's could be a secondary, it could be a primary concern, or it could be a secondary concern. and even working on posture, because if you don't have correct posture, you could get a frozen
Right.
shoulder.
Right.
Yeah, just because of the, posture. So, yeah, there's definitely, and the upper extremities are so important in ADLs,
Right.
so you need the range, you need them to be pain-free so you can function. So I'm very much a proponent of what you're doing.
And
Yes.
we like to think of our little tool. The magic is not in the rope or the pulley; it's
Mm,
in the movement.
mm,
In a pain-free range that promotes the circulation and gets the synovial fluid going again. And probably try to talk folks back a little bit from getting up into pain and thinking that they've got to do that. Just
mm, mm,
by hanging a little device over the door, hopefully the bedroom door, so you kind of see it coming and going every day.
mm, mm,
It really is an engagement tool for the patient that we're subtly enticing them into being part of their own recovery.
mm,
Is kind of
mhm.
how we think about shoulder pulleys. But I want to kind of dive deeper because you alluded to this idea of group therapy being a stronger um, motivating factor, it sounded like. So you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure, sure, yeah. The benefits of group therapy, well, for one thing, social isolation causes illness. And it's not only a quality of life, which that's huge, that it's a quality of life issue, but it's also an economic issue. And I know just our country is spending billions of dollars every year on the effects of social isolation and the illness. They're the proponent of this is knowing that in years to come, with the baby boomers and the caregivers of the baby boomers, they will be spending trillions of dollars on the effects of social isolation. And I heard a statistic last fall that said caregivers are dying 60% faster than those they care for. So, I mean, this is really an issue. So we need to get people together. We need to get them face to face. And when you're face to face, you emit hormones that help your body function. They help you become more empathetic and have that more of a loving and that relationship that we all need. Also, your genetic expression is different when you're in a group, when you have that face to face connection. So, your genes, we're all born with genes, but the way they're expressed has a lot to do with our environment and, the things we think about and believe. So, just being in a group helps that. And there are so many benefits, to that, the face to face. And I liken it to like a football team, because I say, take a football team, and if you took this football team and said, okay, we're going to have you watch some film, you're going to, see what you did right, what you did wrong. Then we're going to show you the plays. We're going to teach you the plays. And then we're going to send you to the weight room and you can lift weights and get strong. And then we want you to go play the Super Bowl, or we're going to have a few practice sessions. Then we want you to play the Super Bowl. What would they say, And I'm wondering, is that what we're doing with our patients?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're building their strength. We're teaching them what to do. We're giving them, sometimes we only have a little bit of time for education, it just, if they're in and out. So we are, but I'm like, are we really preparing our patients to go play the game? You've got to get face to face like a football player. You got to get face to face and you got to get body to body with your opponent to know how to win. And that's like with our patients. Are we getting them face to face in real situations so they can be winners? So as you can see, I've got a passion for this.
Yeah. Yeah. And you set up a bit of a dilemma because over the last 30 or 40 years, aging in place has been sort of the mantra. But there does come along with that, unless the patient is an extrovert, they could be aging in place by themselves
Mm,
or with their partner. But one of those partners is going to be gone before the other one. Almost 99% of the cases, they don't go out together. And then you have this long period where people are trying to age in place. So what do you say to their children about that phenomenon? Because that's a different kettle of fish right there.
Yes, yes, and I have a couple thoughts on that. And one would be, I am for aging in place, as long as you have your community around you. You know, you're involved in the groups, or you can go to that, you know, your neighborhood grocery store, or you can see people, we call them weak ties. It could be like most of our mail isn't delivered to the door anymore, but it would be like the mailman, the librarian, the grocery store clerk. Those are your weak ties that keep your, that they're actually responsible for your longevity, your weak ties. It's
Is that
crazy, but there's been studies about this, you know, over in Italy where they had all these centurions, you know. So that's one thought. The other thought is, yeah, get into a place like an assisted living or somewhere where you can get into groups and, you know, enjoy that type of interaction. But I think, you know, I think aging in place is okay if it's set up to promote some of the group experience. You know, yeah, and it's even like I talk to families and say, you've got to be the group, you know,
yeah,
they need you, they need you, they need their family, they need that interaction to be healthy.
yeah.
Mhm.
No, but family is a little more than a weak tie, would you say? Or do you have another kind of category for that?
Yeah, and you're right. Family is more than a weak tie, but we're finding out that your weak ties give you invaluable information, you know. And you can think about it. Maybe you got a job once because you had this weak tie. And
Mhm.
right now I'm getting referrals from people I barely know, but we're giving referrals to each other. We have that network of weak ties, and we're all helping each other. And it's just it's amazing, you know, how it works. But there are studies on that, and it has been proven to work for longevity.
You know, it makes sense, but until you kind of investigate it sort of mentally, but
Mhm.
you know, I've been a fan of the Starbucks phenomenon, and the whole sort of romantic story about how that company came to be when Charles, what's his name Charles Schultz, what's his name, Howard Schultz, Charles Schultz did the Peanuts cartoon,
Mhm.
went to Italy and was there for a week-long convention and was going around in the environment there in Milan, I believe, and was going from coffee shop to coffee shop. And the regulars were talking to the baristas
Mhm.
while they were making their coffee. And he pretty soon realized there was kind of a rhythm to this. There was a frequency and a familiarity. And I know just going to the grocery store, if I see that young fellow that was in my Boy Scout troop way back when, who's now, you know, in the cashier line, I'll go to him, you know, and we'll
Mhm.
just exchange, you know, little pieces of information about how my son's doing or how his family's coming along, that sort of thing. So these weak ties are fundamental to our survival.
Mhm. Yes, they are. Yes. And
Wow.
yeah, yes. And to know we can do that for our patients, get that kind of set up, you know. And if it's in a community, they might be able to get resources about the community they didn't even know about, you know? So,
Yeah. Well, let's go back to my patient who let's just say they're 70 years old, a little more frequently a woman than a man, and she's just suffered a fall, and she started uh, in the physical therapy. They've decided she has a tear in her rotator cuff. Um, I'll bet you that's a signal where if you at that point want to engage with the family. I mean, ideally, someone engages the family and said, "There's a bunch of things I need to tell you right now." Am I right about that? Is that sort
uh,
of in a perfect picture?
yes, yes, yes. And yeah, and I would incorporate into the therapy, you know, and of course, your range master would be critical for, you know, getting the range of motion,
Sure.
but also, yeah, adding in some, you know, in any of these groups, it could be a cooking group where you got together as a family even, and maybe rolled out some dough or made a pizza together, rolled out the dough,
Right,
cut the vegetables, and these are all shoulder
right,
activities
right.
that, yeah, that, and then you're getting the benefit of the group, so you're getting like multiple benefits with
Yep,
this one exercise. You're improving health as you improve the shoulder. I was just
exactly.
trying to think of your shoulder or your range master in it almost like couldn't be a group setting, but I was thinking about how to, I'm always thinking about how to put this into a group.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we hear people that are teaching shoulder pulley exercise in group in assisted living facilities, and then the patients go back to their room with a shoulder pulley
Oh, good.
because they may only get together in their group once or twice a week, but they for better outcomes if they could do 3 sets of 15 in the morning and 3 sets of 15 in the evening, they would loosen up faster and promote that recovery. But what about related things? I mean, obviously, that vestibular balance, if I'm saying that correctly, I'm a former journalist, not a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's an indication there, is there not, that we may have some other issues going forward. I know after my wife is a um, had a fall and tore her rotator cuff. She had two subsequent falls and broke both of her wrists. And so I'm thinking, okay, there's a falls issue here. How do
Mm-hmm.
we, what's next? What could we have done as an intervention right there to maybe head that off? You know,
Yes, well, there would be exercises, if you took your wife to a therapist, let's say like a physical therapist, they
yes.
could evaluate like the range of her ankles. You need good range of motion in your ankles, to like, because when you get off balance, that's your first reaction is at your ankles.
Um,
Your ankles and hips take over to get you, righted, So that would, the range of motion, muscle strength, how strong is the core, your core muscles. That has a lot to do with your balance. And also any other, like you said, the vestibular, if they have any type of vestibular problems, or, it could even go into something else like, you might have something that would be a little bit more drastic, like, it could be a brain dysfunction,
mhm.
causing some of this. So yeah, it would be good, if you have an initial fall, to really look into that, and your doctor would be able to help you to determine if you needed to have an evaluation and treatment,
Yeah.
by a therapist.
Medications as well might
Mm,
cause
correct.
instability, right?
Yes.
Um,
Hmm.
but there's also still that thing with that I can still climb a ladder and I can hang pictures and I can, you know, where we
Hmm.
all don't want to admit. I don't want to admit that I shouldn't probably be taking the pine needles off of my roof anymore. That I
Hmm.
should be hiring some younger person, right?
Yes, right, right, right. Yeah, and it's such a fine balance because there's a safety issue, but then if you don't use it, you lose it. You know,
Yes. Yeah.
so I go back and forth between let's be super safe, but if you're super safe and you never take any risks, then you lose what you have. Or you could lose what you have.
Yep.
And I actually help people with, in part of my course is neuroplasticity, and I teach people how to take risks every day to keep their brain functioning correctly. So I know what you mean. I think it's a real fine line between but we have to choose safety first,
Well,
and I do teach people to take risks that aren't going to be detrimental, to their health, but or their finances, or
yeah.
whatever.
Well,
But
tell me this. I see we've been going on for 25 minutes and I'm getting more and more interested, but I don't want to take advantage too much of your time and we have to think of the editor.
mhm,
Tell me this. So you're a PT, but now you're an entrepreneur and you're a writer, a lecturer, and you have courses. who is your ideal client now? If someone wanted to call, who do you hope will call you up after seeing our interview and
Mm.
say, I need your help? Who is that client for you as an entrepreneur? And as an entrepreneur myself, it's always an intriguing question to me.
Mhm. Yes, yes, it is. And I've decided that I want to start with therapists, either, physical therapist, occupational therapist, speech therapist. That is my focus right now. I want to teach them how to create an exceptional group therapy treatment.
I see. Okay. So very specifically, you're going to teach them how to do that. And you'll do that by offering them a CEU course, basically, or kind of give me an idea how you would bill for that.
Okay. Yes, I do have my courses and I also do like consulting. So if you had a group of therapists and you really wanted to dive into this, because it also helps, and not only helps patient outcomes, but it also helps your productivity and your revenue as a
Mhm.
business. So if you want to get all of your therapists together and have a course and or be taught by me one-on-one, and we could just go through this and I could give you all the all the parameters and teach you how to do this in a couple of days and then you'd be off and running. So that
Did
I do that also. Mhm.
did you do that during the pandemic? Did you do it from home and teach people remotely?
Yes, I did. I just had started some of my continuing education courses, and I've been working on marketing, and things are starting to kind of the ball is starting to roll here. So I'm
Yeah,
happy about that. Yeah.
aren't we? We are all happy about that, I'll tell you. Well, let's wrap up here. Again, let's repeat the title of your book and tell people how to get a hold of you again.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the title of my book is The Art of Assisting Aging Parents. And you can find me at teresamoerer.com. And I have my email on there, and you can actually set up a free 20-minute coaching call with me. And if you have any questions, just set up a 20-minute call. It's free. I would love to help you start strategizing and making your business and your patients better.
And if you'll spell your last name
Sure,
out.
sure. It's Moerer.
Teresa, thanks for joining us today. What a fascinating topic, and probably for all of us, it grows more relevant by the day. And
Yeah, thank you for having me.
yeah, well, bless your heart. I mean, I can tell this is a passion of yours more than just an entrepreneurial venture.